Well, when I was a young man, I carried my pie, and I lived a free life of a rover. From the Murray's green basin to the dusty outback, I was my Matilda all over. And in 1915, my country said, son, it's time to stop rambling, there's work to be done. And they gave me a tin hat, and they gave me a gown, and they sent me away to the war. And the band played a waltzing Matilda as the ship pulled away from the quay. And amidst all the tears, flag waving and cheer, we sailed off for Gallipoli. How well I remember the terrible day when the blood stained the sand and the water, and how in that hell that they call Suvla Bay we were butchered like lambs to the slaughter. Johnny Turkey was ready, he primed himself well, he rained us with bullets and showered us with shells, and in 5 minutes flat he'd us all blown to hell. He nearly blew us back home to Australia. And the band played a waltzing Matilda as we stopped to bury our slain, and we buried ours and the Turks buried theirs, and it started all over again. Now those that were living did their best to survive in a mad world of blood, death and fire. And for 7 long weeks I kept myself alive, while the corpses around me piled higher. Then a big Turkish shell knocked me arse overhead, and I awoke in my hospital bed. I saw what it had done, Christ, I wished I was dead. I never knew there was worse things than dying, for I no more go waltzing Matilda all around the green bush far and near, for to hang tent and pegs a man needs both legs. No more waltzing Matilda for me. So they collected the crippled, the wounded, the maimed, and they shipped us back home to Australia. The armless, the legless, the blind, the insane, those proud wounded heroes of Suvla. Another ship pulled into Circular Quay. I looked at the place where my legs used to be. Thank Christ there was no one there waiting for me, for the grieve and to mourn and to pity. And the band played a waltzing Matilda as they carried us down the gangway. But nobody cheered, they just stood there and stared. They turned their faces away. And now every April I sit on my porch and I watch the parade pass before me. I see my old comrades, how proudly they march, living old dreams of past glory. I see the old men, all twisted and torn, the forgotten heroes of a forgotten war. And the young people ask, what are they marching for? And I ask myself the same question. And the band plays a waltzing matilda, and the old men still answer the call. But year after year, their numbers grow fewer. Someday no one will march there at all. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, oh, come a waltzing Matilda with me. And their boasts may be heard as they pass along the billabong. Come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, oh, come a waltzing Matilda with me. And their boasts may be heard as they pass along the billabong. Come a waltzing Matilda with me. Greetings, friends, again. Sick of me at this stage, I guess. Sick of myself. Birds are sick of me. You can hear them outside, whatever they're fighting for. Anyway, it is what it is. That was waltzing. The band played a waltzing Matilda. I can't remember who wrote that, actually. Some Australian guy, anyway. Interesting song, interesting topic. And again, when we look back at history with our media fakery goggles on, you know, it seems to be more World War I, World War II for the most part, and complete fabrications. We just slot that in with the rest of our known history, and it all makes sense, doesn't it? So the ultimate question is, what is the true story? Let me move, excuse me, straight on there, and I want to read this poem immediately. I should find out actually who wrote Waltzing Matilda and the band. Who wrote and the band? Yeah, who wrote that? Pretty sure Australian guy, relatively recently as well. Not the Pogues, man. Eric Bogle, that's it, Eric Bogle. So an Australian geezer, probably still alive, but a great song nonetheless. And I'm sure it's like everything else, it's taken from a sort of an old ballad. A lot of ballads seem to have originated in Ireland, so don't know why that is. But that's the way it seems to me anyway. Yeah, so I'm going to jump straight over. Just because I read a Thomas Kinsella poem earlier on, which was Mirror in February. And I'm going to read that again, actually, because what I'm looking for now, generally, again, what we're trying to find out, what we're trying to ascertain is known by millions, and they give you clues left, right, and center, but unless you had the right context, it would mean nothing to you. It would be a lyrical expression, you know, of a deep thought that you think you can grasp, but you really don't have any hope, especially when you find out maybe the true sort of interpretation of it. So before I read this poem, let me just quickly read Mirror in February again by Thomas Kinsella. I was trying to find out actually when I was on the last hangout with Denny. No more mum. I won't be referring to Denny as mum anymore for good reason. But yeah, I'm thinking this was maybe in the 1950s or 1960s or something like that. But yeah, I like this poem, and on a rereading now or tonight for the first time in ages. It must be a good few years anyway. I had a little cassette player with poems of Ireland, you know, these famous poets. And it was pretty comprehensive. It was 2 CDs, you know, so there was a good number of poems. You can imagine how many poems it would take to fill up a CD. I think it was called The Poems of Ireland. But I also remember this from school, you know, and what do you know when you're 15 or 14? Well, how can you possibly get a grasp on that? You should be taught younger, if anything, you know, because when you're in those transformative years, you have no idea. Canned coffee, just what the doctor didn't order. Mirror in February. Again, now that I'm aware of certain things anyway, what I'm looking for is a tale of old versus new, a tale of torn man. And when you say man, it's not man, the individual man, it's mankind. Trees destruction, trees to play a big role in it, you know, and all the usuals as well. 33, 666, all these different signs, again, all tying back into trees and destroyed trees, a way of life that was different before and then after. So Mirror in February by Thomas Kinsella. The day dawns with scent of must and rain, of open soil, dark trees, dry bedroom air. Under the fading lamp, half-dressed, my brain idling on some compulsive fantasy, my towel, my shaven jaw, and stop and stare, riveted by a dark, exhausted eye, a dry, down-turning mouth. It seems again that it is time to learn in this untiring, crumbling place of growth to which, for the time being, I return. Now, plainly in the mirror of my soul, I read that I have looked my last on youth, and little more, for they are not made whole that reach the age of Christ. Below my window, the wakening tree, hacked clean for better bearing, stand defaced, suffering their brute necessities. And how should the flesh not quail that span for span is mutilated more? In slow distaste, I fold my towel with what grace I can, not young and not renewable, but man. Okay. Interesting. I'll be reading that again now. Yeah. Mirror in February, you know. Does February conjure up to your mind? An interesting line is, for they are not made whole that reach the age of Christ. What does that mean? That could mean many things, isn't it? And I made a mistake there slightly. I said, below my window, the wakening tree, when it should have been below my window, the wakening trees, hacked clean for better bearing, stand defaced. This is what the sun is for me, suffering their brute necessities. Yeah. They all know. They all know about it. Anyway, that's anyone interested. That's Mirror in February by Thomas Kinsella, an Irish poet. So this is the one I came to then, because we were talking about 9/11 again a little bit earlier on. Speckled here and there. So this is one, and I'm not sure if I read it or not before. If I have, it's definitely been a long time. So I'm reading it now just on the basis of the title alone, September. We know how important September is in terms of September 11th. And I think that's what a lot of things are pointing to. You know, that date was always in the planning. Since the beginning, I'm thinking, you know. So anyway, Another September by Thomas Kinsella. Dreams fled away. This country bedroom, raw with the touch of dawn wrapped in a minor peace. Hears through an open window the garden draw, long pitch black breaths, lay bare its apple trees, ripe pear trees, brambles, windfall sweetened soil, exhale rough sweetness against the starry slates. Near the river sleeps St. John's, old toil locked fast inside a dream with iron gates. Domestic autumn, like an animal long used to handling by those countrymen, rubs her kind hide against the bedroom wall, sensing a fragrant child come back again. Not this half-tolerated consciousness that plants its grammar in her unyielding weather, but that unspeaking daughter growing less familiar where we fell asleep together. Wakeful moth wings blunder near a chair, toss their light shell at the glass and go to inhabit the living starlight. Stranded hair stirs on the still linen. It is as though the black breathing that billows her sleep, her name, drugged under judgment, waned, and bearing daggers and balances down the lampless darkness they came, moving like women, justice, truth, such figures. Okay. What the fuck? Well, definitely one to go over again. Of course, a poem is by anybody who's ever written anything. You know that there's thought gone into it, and there is sort of deconstruction, I guess, on behalf of the composer. So to understand the sentiment, or to try and understand the sentiment, is not easily done. And so something like that would have to be reread again and again. One thing I noticed just with the two poems I read there, that the day dawns, the dawn comes into it pretty prominently at the beginning. Another September, as dreams fled away, this country bedroom, raw with the touch of dawn. Mirror in February, the day dawned with the scent of must and rain. I mentioned in the other hangout, coming across a poster on the way back here. It was just for Lloyd's Pharmacy, but and it was a big poster, electronic poster, but it was just an advertisement for Lloyd's in general. So it was a picture of a lady, just official looking lady, sitting down at a desk with a welcoming smile, but it said something to the order of call into Lloyd's at any time and say hello. So this is the idea, to say hello to the name of the person underneath. But the way they had hello was H-E-L in capitals, and then the little L, right, which looks like an I, and the L and the I were stressed, and then O, and then so say Helio to me, and then underneath to Dawn. Dawn was supposed to be her name. So that's another reference to Dawn. So in a big way, I think this is all about a new dawn. Second coming, if you will. Yeats had a poem called September 1916. September is an important month, and of course, Sept is 7. So when you see 7-11, chops like 7-11, that's in reference to 9/11. Time is broken. I'm thinking maybe there was 10 months initially, so whatever was the initial divide before the sun and the moon and the stars came into a broken existence. I'm going to look that up, actually. I'm going to read that. September 1916. I think it starts with, what need you being come to sense. So let me, but fumble in a greasy till. Pretty sure now, so let me just, oh no, it's not, it's Easter 1916. I have a book here, actually. Let me look this up. Pretty sure there's definitely September in one of the. It's way after that. No, I'm not seeing it. Hang on. If I go back to the index. I was close, wasn't I? September 1913. Shit. Of course it had to be 13. Look, I was showing this earlier on. It's all about 13 now. See the black and the red. This is for, okay, I was close enough. Forgive me for that. September 1913. So let's see if I was right about the start of it. What need you being come to sense, but fumble in a greasy till, and add the halfpence to the pence, and prayer to shivering prayer until you have dried the marrow from the bone. Romantic Ireland's dead and gone, it's with O'Leary in the grave. No, I'm missing a line there somewhere. That didn't quite rhyme. Here we go. Perfect. Look, September 1913. Let me just go in. I don't know what people are seeing, by the way. Let me go into here. Sorry about that, Denny. You know the story. Yeah, I'll get into the chat in a second. So let me read this. Yeah, you can see that. September 1913. But I showed this earlier on. Just a beer, a new Guinness beer. This is all over the place. So it's not me flashing signs or anything like this. Actually, hang on. Hang on. Oh, no. Well, that's good enough, actually. On the back, actually, this is drew ages ago. Hope you can see that. That's pertinent. It's very pertinent to what I've been saying. Ask yourself how the fleur de lis, or the flower of life, comes about, and what do we associate with the flower of life? September 1913. Yeah, just to point out about this, Hop House 13 lager, black and red, solid colors, but 13, nothing to be scared of. They're sort of highlighting it now, aren't they? So now it's coming out into the open. We're going to share our presence with everyone. 13 is the sun. It's the source of everything. Without the 12, so without the 13, the 12 wouldn't be. They just would pop out of existence. It's nothing to do with disciples, or it's nothing to do with lots of other associations. It's just got to do with the stars, the 12 constellations, how we identify the skies in terms of the 12 constellations. And without the 13th, without the sun, the stars wouldn't be. They tell us, of course, in the official heliocentric story, that the stars are separate, massive objects. Some of the stars, in terms of size compared to our own sun, which is massive in itself, are astronomical, I guess is the only word you can describe. So it's all nonsense. Stars are tiny pinpricks of light, and they're aspects of the sun. and this is well known as well. So what they tell you in Revelations 22, very last chapter, if you're looking to find out, without having to read the whole book, the gist of things, go to the last chapter, isn't it, of any book. You know, everything is usually resolved, and you generally get the gist. That's what all, for the most part, detective novelists, etc. By the way, Agatha Christie was another male to female, transgender, if you will. It's just a man dressing as a woman, really, when you, in some senses, anyway. But yeah, you have 13. Sun is everything, and without that, the stars would be nothing, you know. And they've kept 13 to themselves. They've hinted at it, of course, but I think now they're sharing it. That's why it's in big red letters on this. But here we go, September 13, September 1913, WBH. Let me read it. What need you be in, come to sense, but fumble in a greasy till, and add a halfpence to the pence in prayer to shivering pair until you have dried the marrow from the bone. For men were born to pray and save, romantic Ireland's dead and gone, it's with O'Leary in the grave. If they were of a different kind, the names that stilled your childish play, they have gone about the world like wind, but little time had they to pray, for whom the hangman's rope was spun, and what, God help us, could they save, romantic Ireland's dead and gone, it's with O'Leary in the grave. Was it for this the wild geese spread the grey wing upon every tide? For this that all that blood was shed? For this Edward Fitzgerald died? And Ramad Emmet and Wolfe Tone all that delirium of the brave, romantic Ireland's dead and gone, it's with O'Leary in the grave. Yet could we turn the years again and call those exiles as they were, in all their loneliness and pain, you'd cry, some woman's yellow hair has maddened every mother's son. They weighed so lightly what they gave, but let them be, they're dead and gone. They're with O'Leary in the grave. Okay, I just read that because September 1913. I wonder how many years is that actually before September 2001. So September 2013 is 100, and take away 12 is 88. Interesting millennium. Interesting, Denny. Of course, I can't call you mum anymore, as explained. And yeah, interesting, isn't that? So 88 years from September 1913, when William Butler Yeats for sure must have written this, in and around anyway. Absolutely, 88 years to September 2001. 88 years, no higher. That's very interesting. It's a shame. It's a shame, Danny, but what can you do? Okay, let me go into chat and say hello. How you doing? Denny, yeah. How you doing, man? You know the story. As I said, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. I had to call you out as an actor, man. No judgment against the man. Same things apply. So obviously, knowing certain things, my path forward has to be different because I'm not an actor. And I for sure can learn things from people who are actors, but once the line is crossed, I don't have to tolerate it anymore in that sense, because I know I won't be hurting anyone's feelings if someone is playing a part. So I know you'll understand that. Hey, Tau Seti Alpha. How you doing, Tau? Yeah, man, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a long time. You were the one of the more reasonable bowler antagonists, even though you weren't very reasonable at all. But of course, you're acting your part as well. So, but yeah, I certainly did like you a little more than I like most of them. Um, I must say, maybe Ritzler, I liked the least. Um, I just call him Gimp on a gimbal, and he was never able for me anyway, in one sense. But I wouldn't take it too personally, but it was definitely the part of a nasty character he was playing, which is fair enough, like, you know. Which is fair enough. If there's a set of costumes to be put on, and you're going to have to wear one of them, you know, which one would you choose? So I'd say hi, Nawaf Mubarak. How you doing? You said, Pete, you are fascinating. Can I study you for my psychology report? You can do what you want, man. If you want to get a grasp on me as a man, as a person, you can go back into all the different hangouts I've appeared on. So not just here on my own channel, not that I own any channel, but not just here, but you can go back on many others as well, Pancho Pizza especially. But yeah, if you want to go back to last year, you'll find me partaking in debate, heated sometimes, most of the time, in the likes of Flat Earth discussion channel or Earth discussion channel. So yeah, you don't need my help beyond that. So feel free, man. And how you doing, by the way? I think you were here before. So Flat Earth crisis actor. Okay. How you doing? You sort of took a quick shot and pissed off. That's absolutely cool, man. I'm talking to myself here anyway, and now more than ever, I suppose. But yeah, Napoleon, how you doing? An interesting choice of name. Napoleon spent some time in Egypt in and around the time that it's suspected that the pyramids were faked, using modern construction methods. The big mystery surrounding the pyramids in general science was, how could they, with known manufacturing techniques at the time, how could they possibly pull off this monstrous feat? Whereas, you know, if they were asked, if the scientists were asked, well, how could they possibly pull off this monstrous feat in the 1850s? Oh, that'd be no problem, because there was different methods, known methods in operation. So that wouldn't be any problem. So the big mystery is just the time scale. So when we find out that this is more akin to reality, Napoleon himself having a big role to play, whoever he was. I mean, how do we even know, like, you know, what the fuck is going on? Be sure that anything we can dream of or imagine is going to still be a million miles away from any truth. But maybe we're sort of honing in on the miles. Yeah, I'm only talking to myself anyway, but yeah, I told you I was going to do that, Denny. So a man's got to do what a man's got to do. You're called out as an actor on the Flat Earth stage, man. Can't say any straighter than that. Anyone knows me now knows what I mean by that. Not that it bears any significance to anybody, but it's the least I can do, isn't it? So interesting times. We have lots of characters coming on now, and their disguise is really paper thin. One thing for certain is the likes of ADR. I'm pretty certain about that. ADR and an anonymous guest are one and the same, just a little bit of a sped up voice. But he denies it. So therefore, there's immediate deception. So he is on the defensive from that point onwards. Yeah, what bothers me, not what bothers me, Isa is also another character who's, it seems like, make an appearance on Jamie Brown's channel as Masoni, MA5ONE. A little imagination tells you it's most probably Isa, but I mean, there is a little bit of doubt about that. But if it is the case, as I'm certain ADR and anonymous guest is the case, why is it made so transparent? This is the question, you know. I think we're constantly sort of moving to the next stage of the game, and I guess the next layer of adversaries, in a sense. You can look at them as adversaries, but you can also look upon them as, you know, placeholders, in a sense. They are gatekeepers. They're gatekeeping information. You know, you can, on our journey here, you jump from one new talented researcher to the next. You know, you can again, when everyone jumps into the conspiracy world in the first place, you're met with popular, famous almost, people waiting in the wing, the likes of Alex Jones I'm talking about, loose change I talked about earlier on as well, and loose change having that different meaning, you know. Yeah, because 9/11 was just the beginning. 9/11 is just a doorway into this mad realm. So you could see why 9/11 would be just classed as loose change or small pickings, if you will. But why are they making it so obvious? Why is ADR making it so obvious now? And again, the best you can do is just say, "Hey, man, I recognize it's you. I'm not going to bust my ass trying to prove it's you, you know, by getting these voice comparisons. Just have the feeling it's you, and just the more things you say, the more that feeling sort of sinks home." And yeah, I ask the bigger questions: why are you making it so obvious, you know? But at this stage, actors everywhere, and actors will only ever take you so far. It depends on how you view, or what you view the role of these actors are. Yeah, from either people put in place voluntarily to guide and misguide, to sort of help and to hinder, sort of thing. It depends on your role. Again, if you're keen enough, you will understand beyond a certain point that it's about what's not said over opposed to what is said. Certainly what I've come to realize. Doesn't do to get emotionally involved as well. When I say that about Millennium or Denny, how long have I known you now, man, in terms of text? A few weeks, or sorry, not a few weeks. I was going to say a few years even, no, but it's about a year, I suppose. You've been there all along, and then you tell me that before that you were aware of hearing me on Fakeologist back in 2013 talking about flat Earth, which is fine, like, but I had no idea of your existence. And the only time I've seen your face on camera is on a few occasions we've spoken. I always had my sort of, because we had that sort of relationship. It's gone over a year. I give it a bit of time to see which way it would pan out, and it panned out the way I thought it might, especially after speaking to you a few times. But that's cool. That's cool. We move on, you know. That's just where I'm at, and I don't have a problem dealing, as I said, no wrenches and flat earth, but I don't have a problem dealing with actors. Now that I know they are, now that you know that I know, there's a line. Doesn't matter to anyone else, but I'm just speaking for myself. So, you know, no one needs to come here. It doesn't matter if anyone comes here or not. It's it's irrelevant. I don't listen back to any of this sort of stuff. I don't edit anything. Not bothered, you know. Not bothered. I'm coming along my own process. The fact that I've spoken on these hangouts to myself, I'm looking at myself now on the screen, has helped me. I've come by actually verbalizing stuff and speaking them out and having interactions and helpful interactions like that. That's helped me along in terms of my own thinking, speaking just for myself, just verbalizing stuff. Can lead you to other thoughts that otherwise may have laid dormant. Probably would have dealt with them at a different stage, but this sort of accelerates the process. So that's all there is, really. Yeah, so Sylvie. Okay, back to chat. Happy Ray, how you doing, man? Nice to see you. Okay, okay. You know the story, Danny. I'm going to leave that there. Go over Dublin. How you doing? I think you're another one of these antagonists. So I don't mind leaving the chat run for the moment. I mean, anyone with a wrench, no one has to be here, of course. So there's no one forcing anyone to be here, and I have no power over anyone. So Grover Dublin says, Pete, did you fight Arstonio at the Blackpool farce? No. I didn't. It was sort of an idle threat, and it was an appearance. Antonio would have much rather forgotten, I think, when we had that confrontation on Pancho Pete's. I mean, he never confirmed or left any messages saying, listen, about that claim I made upon you, I want to be honourable and follow it up. Let's meet under the Blackpool Tower at midnight or so, whatever, you know. So I didn't hear anything like that. So I just assumed it's, and I assumed correctly, it's hot air, isn't it? It's an actor. It's an actor acting his part, actually, which is what Antonio exposed himself for that night. And yeah, so I'd be interested to see how. I hope I know Jamie Brown was going to Blackpool, so I'd be interested to hear Jamie's reports and how he got on. Maybe he took a few pictures as well, so that would be interesting. But outside of that, yeah, a bit of the divide as well. Isn't there a different meeting coming up in Leamington Spa? Isn't it? Leamington Spa. Well, that's cool, man. If you're here, you come in peace. That's cool, Grover. I am a man of peace. In Irish, my family name actually translates as peace. So that's a little clue for anyone. But yeah, well, you're welcome. Again, I do have experience with you before, and I sort of know which side your bread is buttered on. So if you keep it respectful, that's cool with me. If you don't, I guess that's even fine for tonight, because there's no wrenches on display. So again, no one has to be here. But otherwise, yeah, good. Yeah, okay. Danny, I mean, the game is up, so I'm not going to sort of respond really in kind. Yeah, I didn't get to speak about much of the stuff that not that I'd prepared or anything, but you just have a few ideas in general. When there was others on tonight, or when Denny was on tonight again, he didn't say very much really, but he said a lot in another sense, which is fair enough as well. But yeah, a few things I wanted to talk about is the importance of the electromagnetic barrier. If we are under the influence of this all-prevailing ether, all-prevailing force field, that's emanating from this power, whatever it is that's holding back the water. Again, we have to take certain leaps of faith. I guess you have to just go along with the idea and try and picture it. It's very difficult to prove that there's a barrier or a dome, you know what I mean? Who are you going to prove it to? So we're in a sort of a different realm in terms of proof or otherwise. So we got to take a lot of stuff without proper scientific sort of proof of the premise. You go with it to sort of try and understand the bigger picture. But yeah, so this immense force that is holding back all these waters on all sides of us, well, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So this is the force field. We are underneath that force field, or we're in the midst of it. And yeah, it's a pushing force. The higher up you get, the stronger the force is, and that's why I don't think we can get very high at all. If we think about 120,000 feet in terms of, what was it? I think it was like even something 7 or 8 miles. It has to be more than that, doesn't it? That doesn't sound right. 120,000 feet. It's 5,000 feet. That's actually, sorry, yeah, that's right, isn't it? So 24, 25 miles. I don't think we're getting much higher than that. So that tells me that, maybe the barrier isn't too far, even beyond that. Dave Johnson says it may be 33 miles. So again, that's not out of the realms of possibility. But yeah, if we're in a broken system and there was a different system in operation, well, then this electromagnetic field that we are under is not natural to us, and it exerts its consistent forces, I suppose, against us on a continual basis. But there are ways to nullify it, and I think these ways are well known. Again, it's just about generating your own harmonic field to cancel it out, and then you're free to move freely. So when you think about the cloud layer, well, why does it just seem to be one consistent layer? We've seen this time-lapse, speeded up time-lapse footages from long-distance flights. It's consistently, it's a straight and level line, and the clouds seem to be consistent all the way across the plane. Well, for me, that's all got to do with the positioning within this electromagnetic field, again, which is unnatural for us. If you imagine a time when you go with the giant trees again, and they're holding back this barrier, and anything living below it is not subject to this field. It's just not part and parcel of that reality. Then you can imagine circumstances and conditions very different indeed. So now that we are under this field, yeah, the water, everything is water from the top down. And this is where it vibrates within the field and finds its sort of natural place, I guess. I've talked about that if we were to dig something like 20 miles down, and I think it's literally even less than that possibly, and jumped into that hole, at that point, we would find that null point, and that would be our natural sort of resting place. So yeah, those water droplets, rarefied water, if you will, that's where they find their balance, because they're less dense, you know, and they're rarefied at the cloud level where they coagulate. So when we get rain, it's when I guess these clouds just can't absorb anymore of the different particles, so they become super saturated, and then they just start weeping. But I think the idea is that this is being contributed to more so above than even all the evaporation cycles that we're told causes all the clouds and the different cloud layers. So you have as above, so below, I guess. Yeah, I talked earlier on about the heart. I think the heart is a big key as well. I mentioned before about earth, heart, earth. Denny was talking about rubber soles, the Beatles. Yeah, so we're missing out on that sort of electrical connection and electrical grounding, or electromagnetic grounding, you know, which keeps us from connecting, I guess, in a grander sense. Jesus is always shown pointing at his heart. So we have the jewel of Jesus. Again, everything is duality, two meanings. Jesus, the sun tree, right? Jesus, celebrate the birth of Jesus with the cut down tree at Christmas time. We turn on the artificial lights, don't we? That's another clue. The sun, as we see it, is the product of a broken system, and it's not how it was designed to be. So yeah, we see that, and then we also have the other representation, which is of the perfect state of man. Jesus was conceived by immaculate conception, and all that seems to mean now is without orgasm. So you're not expelling those vital bodily fluids. It's not necessary to produce a child to expel those vital bodily fluids, you know. It seems to be the case. And Jesus, in terms of enlightenment, comes from imbuing these bodily fluids and allowing them to rise up the spine, which is 33 vertebrae. And sort of, I think for me now, I think it's to activate your pineal gland, which is a sort of crystalline core to all of us. You know, it's like in the crystalline trees. It's something like that spark within. So we have to imbue that. And I don't think it's that difficult as well. You don't have to be a mystic hermit living in a cave for 20 years to figure it out. I don't think it's that difficult, I should say. What corrupts our body the most, yeah, is what we put into it, and also what we drain out of it, if you know what I mean. So to hang on to these things and to imbue them in a certain fashion. I talked earlier on about how a memory can invoke a different rate of heartbeat, you know, whether it be sad or even happy, whatever, you know. So a thought can affect the physical processes, and this is what it's about. It's about raising the vibration of your heart. Jesus always points to the heart, you know, well, not always, but in a lot of representations, pointing at the heart, because this is the core of everything. This is the earth point. Ether as well is almost an anagram of the heart. So if you can raise your vibrations by thinking or deeming, I guess, in the proper manner, your heart frequency, then you can overcome this all-prevailing ether and be sort of free of the shackles of this unnatural force. That's how powerful we are, you know. And again, that's where I see all the churches with the copper roofs, just diverting away the prevailing ether. Way underneath you have a null zone, and if you can give out the certain harmonious frequencies then to anyone collected beneath, you can influence them in whatever manner you so decide, for the most part, you know. And this is how most people are living under this veil of complete illusion, because they bought from the earliest of times, or they've been sold from the earliest of times, all of these false truths and false facts. Yeah, man, I will. Thanks for your concern. I will get some sleep soon. What's this harming? You don't have to. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah, so that's where the heart comes into things, in my reckoning anyway. And we definitely all have the power to increase that frequency. And what I ultimately think it is about the blood. So your heart can decide at what rate to pump that blood around. And again, if that blood is imbued with different energies as well, yeah, who knows what powers lie within. I spoke earlier on about another 42 significance, which is probably the most significant. Well, you can rank it up there anyway. Rainbow. So we ask, what is a rainbow, first of all? But yeah, 42, the angle of incident light is said to be 42 degrees as it hits the raindrop. And this resultant sort of cascade, I guess, gives us the rainbow that we see, or the apparent rainbow, because it's observer dependent. So as you move, the rainbow moves with you. But yet that it is attached with the number 42 as well, which some people think that that's the ultimate answer, but no, it's not. It's not. It doesn't just go back to the rainbow, although it sort of does in a sense if we want to ask what a rainbow is. And yeah, I'm pretty happy at this stage anyway regarding what I think the rainbow is, which is the outlines of the cut tree stump. It's the artifice. It's like it's like viewing the circumference of the interface. So where the tree stump is cut around the tree bark itself, where the energies are passing up through that. That's what I think we're seeing in general, a circular fashion, a circular rainbow shape, but we associate it with an arch. But that's only because of our observer position. All of these lights are observer dependent. And once you can sort of take into account in your thinking how a perspective might apply above as opposed to below. Again, our perspective here is very limited in general because we're so close to the ground. So, you know, for us to be able to see even 20 or 30 miles in any particular direction is a rarity. Whereas as you rise up, even a short distance, seeing 20 or 30 miles in the distance becomes no hassle whatsoever, you know. So when you're up maybe 50 miles, yeah, a different sense of perspective applies, and especially if there's no interference, you know. So things could span thousands of miles and it wouldn't be any problem whatsoever. So once we can wrap our heads around that, we can see that the system is very much smaller than and more manageable than what we might have hitherto thought, only because as well we have constantly in our mind, we have to purge it from our minds, this idea of an infinite nothingness and a big bang and all this sort of stuff, you know. Everything is so much more up close and personal in one big sense anyway than what we ever thought it was. So yeah, when you think in these terms, it certainly makes more sense to me, especially when the rainbow is said to introduced on Earth after the massive flood that Lord God created. And I say that connects with the destruction of the giant trees, so that would make sense in that manner. The moon also shows rainbow colors in terms of, if you've ever viewed the moon through light cloud, you'll often see the peripherals in a rainbow ring, you know, through those clouds. So again, we take it that the moon is a reflection of the sun off of the watery electromagnetic contour barrier above. And yeah, it's a hole of mirrors there. So it will take on some of the qualities of the sun. And we also see stars showing this rainbow type a color display. So yeah, and so what are colors but just different frequencies, isn't it? Again, the sun is the sum total of everything. It's not how, it's like the hands of the watch, but the tops of the hands removed, like, you know. It's not functioning as it was designed to function. So all of these energies are thrown into one, as opposed to being maybe dispersed and divided. So yeah, and when they talk about the second coming, yeah, I think that's all it is. It's just a rebuilding of the sun, just a restructuring. It's my last beer. I haven't had too many beers, just in case. Worried about me. What's more, I think all of these things are known about. Just going along with maybe that I might be right for a minute, all these things are well known about, and it's hinted at everywhere. I pointed it out in terms of the front cover of The Secret Teaching of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. And it's sort of hitting you in your face there, you know. There on the front cover, you can see the mountain. If you think the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that mountain that featured so heavily, and yeah, there it is. It's like a tree stump for all the world. And again, take a look at the Manly P. Hall cover, and you'll see that's, from my eyes anyway, exactly what's been hinted at. This energy coming from this stump and doing its thing. And funny enough as well, there you have a big rainbow stemming from this energy emanating from the stump. So that can only tell me anyway that I'm on the right track. And again, when you think about broken trees featuring so much in so many works of poetry that I've come across anyway, yeah, it seems to be a direct and a persistent clue. I did ask Millennium or Denny earlier on about the thread to Mark Sargent. You know, so making my way to Mark Sargent and then following the clue pattern, but he was evasive in his answer, of course, again. But that's okay. I think it's a direct thread. But yeah, again, he connects to the sun with his 666 roulette table Orlando Ferguson model map that he chose to represent his position. And I think the clue was there in the 666. So it's all about the sun. So he's telling everyone that this is part and parcel of the bigger puzzle. And yeah, he knows that it's all about the sun. So I can't see any reason to step off of that track for the minute. I can actually only see more reason to remain on it and stick to it closer than ever. But I showed you the little flower of life design in the back of the Yeats book. I did just completely separately. Yeah, that's going to be pertinent in terms of why I'm sticking to my guns. So yeah, it's getting pretty late here anyway. Oh, hang on, I see Jamie was on tonight. Excellent. I won't mind listening to that, seeing how he got on. Maybe he's reporting back on some stuff. Maybe he has some interesting tidbits to offer up. That'll be interesting. Yeah. I could speak for more, I guess, but listen, it doesn't. It's 7:23 anyway, and Yeah, let me go out. Let me play a song, and I'll go out. Tired anyway. But next time I'm definitely going to read the last 2 chapters of Alice in Wonderland, and see where that takes us. Because again, like I was saying about the book, you can take a shortcut and just go to the last chapter and get a good idea of the gist of the whole thing. So we're approaching the last couple of chapters, so everything might sort of pop into place. Oh yeah, I must have ran for 8 hours, man. Well, no worries, but there might even be a copyright claim because I was singing. But even if there is, it doesn't matter. I was singing Acadian Driftwood. I'm going to leave with this, The Parting Glass. So I didn't get a chance to sing that the last time, but I like the song. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. And yeah, I'll see you the next time. Oval to all. Oh, of all the money that I spent, I've spent it in good company, and all the harm that e'er I did, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you. If I had money enough to spend and leisure to sit a while, there is a fair maid in the town that sorely has my heart beguiled. Her rosy cheeks, her ruby lips, I own she has my heart enthralled. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you. Of all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away. And all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and I'll softly call. Good night and joy be with you. I'll gently rise and I'll softly call. Good night and joy be with you. Thank you. Till next time. Good night. Love you, Steve. Oh, God.